Hello, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We'll allow everyone 1 or 2 minutes to get settled. In the meantime, we have a nice screen here for you to see the title of this webinar. All right, we'll get started in just 1 minute. Okay. Again, welcome everybody to today's webinar. It's called Tips for How to Find and Become a Great Mentor for Engineers. We have a really great lineup of panelists here. These are instructors of PPI. Some have been here for quite some time. Some are newer instructors, and they're really excited to be here today to share their experiences with you about that mentor-mentee relationship. Before we get started, regarding questions, if you do have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. We do have someone monitoring the chat, and what we're going to do is collect all of the questions and make sure that they get answered after the webinar. Because this is just a 50-minute webinar, we just want to keep the topic with the instructors, and then we'll make sure to answer your questions afterwards. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a really brief introduction on who is PPI, if you don't know. We were founded in 1975 by Michael Linderberg. We've been the leader in engineering, architecture, and interior design preparation, and we actually prepare students for 38 professional licensing exams. If you've taken your exam a while ago, you might remember the big yellow book, the FE review manual, or the civil engineering reference manual. PPI is the author, the publisher of these books. And over the years, we've transitioned a lot of our content and preparation online. So we have a lot of digital quiz banks and review courses, on-demand courses, live online, learning hub, that sort of thing. In 2018, PPI was actually acquired by Kaplan. So for the past 6 years or so, we have been part of the bigger Kaplan family, and it's been great. All right, so who is here to talk with us today? We're just going to do some brief introductions of our 4 instructors. We'll just go ahead and go alphabetically. So James, if you want to kick us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe what type of work you do, maybe why you got into teaching, anything that you'd like to share.
Sure, and thank you, Jenny, and thanks to PPI for putting the webinar together today. Mentoring is something that I really enjoy doing. I've been a mentor for a number of years with one person in particular, and probably have had some short-term mentors over the years, mentees over the years. My name is James Mirabile. I'm a licensed professional engineer in Maryland. My practice is power engineering, electrical power engineering, and I teach the PE review course for electrical power engineering. I've had the fortune of having, I think, over 1,000 students come through my class. I've been teaching since 2012 and since about 2017 directly for PPI. Um, let's see what else. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Drexel University and a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. Um, I really do love teaching the PE review. I get to learn something new every time I teach it because the people in the class come with experience and knowledge, and it's really fun to have discussions in class as I'm trying to help people prepare for the PE exam. I'm also learning from them. My number one professional goal is to help engineers become licensed in electrical engineering. It's not. It's common among the consulting community, but not so common among the electrical engineers who work for utilities. So that is my one goal. Is main professional goal is to help people get licensed. So I'll turn it over to Josh. You're next on the list.
Good, you followed the alphabetical instructions. Thanks, James.
Yeah, so I'm Josh Ogle, aka the Hipster Engineer, and I got my education from BYU. Then I got my master's at UC Davis. Um, I've been teaching with PPI since 2017, 2018, so 6 or 7 years. And I am a professional structural engineer licensed in California and Utah and a few other states. But those are the main strongholds for my work. And as a structural engineer, I focus on building structures rather than bridges. And I love what I do. I not only get to crunch numbers every day, but also get opportunities to teach others in my workplace. And that's part of the reason why I got into teaching for PPI is because I love to see those light bulbs go off and as people learn a new subject and as they're figuring things out for the first time or refiguring things out after, dusting things off a little bit. And so it's really that passion that drives me to help others as I teach for PPI and ultimately why I wanted to be a part of this panel to talk about mentoring and being a mentee or finding mentees. So pretty excited for what we have for today. Robin, take it away.
My name is Robin Kloss. I've been a structural engineer, a licensed SE in Illinois. That was my first license, so that was, I don't know, 20 years ago or so now. I also have my PE license in New York and in Washington. I used to have them in a lot of other states, but I've let them lapse because I haven't been doing work for a company anymore. I've been a little bit more self-employed. And I also qualify for the NCEES Model Law Structural Engineer designation. So I could throw those letters after my name if I wanted to, but there's a point where you just have to cut it off, right? I began in civil engineering, so I took 2 years in civil engineering at the State University of New York at Buffalo. Decided I didn't want to design bridges for the rest of my life, and so I ended up transferring schools, and I have a bachelor's in architectural engineering with a structural specialty from the Milwaukee School of Engineering in Wisconsin. I worked for about 15 years as a consulting engineer, and I felt at that time I kind of transitioned a little bit. I started doing some tutoring on the side, and I felt more rewarded from an hour of tutoring in algebra than I did from a week of work. So I ended up starting to transition my career. Now I'm, I don't know, what am I, 6, 7 years out of this kind of transition, and I call myself a semi-retired engineering educator. So that's the short version I give people. But I'll tutor online in math, a lot of concrete design lately, it seems like, engineering courses, architects, a lot of different things like that. I write a monthly newsletter for a local engineering society. I teach professional development seminars, so I actually get some professional development hours that way as well. I get triple the hours. And I've been an instructor for PPI for about 5 years now. Just like Josh said, I love the aha moment when it finally clicks with a student and they get it. They're like, oh, yes, I got it. And you're like, sweet, we did it. And my life goal is just to help others. So that was basically my goal. And I felt that I was helping more with teaching than I was with engineering work. All right, last but not least in the alphabets.
Hey everyone, my name is Seina Soufiani. I am an instructor for the chemical engineering PE exam. I'm licensed in California, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. I got my bachelor's degree in chemical engineering and my master's degree in energy management. I am currently the chief engineer at the Colorado Public Utilities Commission. Basically, what I do is a lot of setting energy policy and setting regulations for the energy industry in Colorado. And so that involves giving professional testimony as an expert engineering witness in court-style situations and basically giving testimony to commissioners appointed by the governor of Colorado. So the work involves a lot of engineering and economics and law and public speaking. So it's got a lot of very interesting things that I'm interested in. I teach again the PE chemical course for PPI, and I've been doing that for a little over a year now. And the reason I got into teaching is I remember studying for the PE exam and being really frustrated that this exam even exists and that it's something that I had to do for my career development. I thought it was pretty annoying studying for it. I assumed that I would be done with studying after my master's degree, so it was very frustrating. And so once I passed the exam, knock on wood, on my first try, I decided I wanted to give back to other engineers who are also frustrated with the exam and want to advance their careers. And like Josh and Robin said, I think seeing people understand very difficult material is very, very inspiring and makes you feel good as well. So I'll stop there.
Awesome. Thank you all. Yeah, we have a wonderful panel here. These are definitely some of our most popular instructors, and you can tell that they always take great care with our students and making sure that they're guided all along the way. My name is Jenny Sly. I'm going to be the moderator today. I've actually been with PPI for 12 years now. I've worked closely with our instructors throughout that time on almost like the operations of the review courses. And then PPI also has university and corporate programs that we offer our courses through. So I work heavily with those programs as well. Okay. We are going to go ahead and get started with our very first panel question here. We'll start off with what is the mentor and mentee relationship like? So this is really about like how does this work together? How is this different from working under a licensed engineer and getting work experience that way? Did you have a mentor? How did that work? We are going to get into the benefits of this relationship with the next question. So this one's really more about what is this? What does this relationship look like? So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with James again, if you want to get started on this question.
Yeah, thank you. And so I, like I said before, I've had a mentee for a long term, and I'm very satisfied with that relationship and how it's turned out. I think a mentor is going to provide guidance to a mentee, and it's typically to help a person grow in their profession. So a mentor is going to listen, going to provide advice, support, and help answer questions and guide the person. The mentee, they're part of the relationship. They need to ask questions and they need to indicate what goals they want help with. So it can't be a completely unstructured relationship. In fact, it should be very structured, and it should be led, I believe, by the mentee to get something out of the relationship. It should be a clear relationship with goals and should have appropriate boundaries. The mentor is going to share his or her experiences and help the mentee achieve their goals. it could be, what kind of goals could it be? It could be skills development goals, advice on how to develop a particular skill, could be career advice, or it could be navigation through challenging situations. So I think the mentor-mentee relationship, pardon me, is going to be different for everybody, and it should be guided by both the mentee and the mentor, so that they both get something out of it. I know in the relationship I have with my mentee, since we've known each other for a long time, over 12 years, the roles are not strictly mentor mentee. I ask my mentee questions now because she's in leadership, and so that relationship has grown, and we're good friends, and we get to share a lot of good things. For engineers, I think the relationship certainly is going to touch on technical skills, and most likely going to lead to licensure, having the discussion about where are you, mentee, on the path to licensure, encouraging your mentees to take the FE exam, to get on the path to licensure, and then helping them through the PE licensure process. I think the relationship is different than it is with your supervisor or with the PE that you're working under. I think it can be a little bit more personal. There's some things you probably wouldn't want to share with your leader, with your immediate leader, because you may have an issue with your immediate leader. So your mentor can actually help you navigate some of those situations that really are outside of what you might have in your normal relationship with your supervisor. So I'll see if any of my other panelists want to add anything to that.
I wanted to mention just a little bit about the boss or your leader, however you want to look at that, being your mentor. I think a lot of times the priorities can be a conflict. I mean, a lot of times they can be the same. They can be on the same path. They're looking for you to grow and that type of thing. But I don't think your boss is ever going to say, hey, you should leave this company because this company is going to give you a better opportunity. So I think if you can have somebody separate, I mean, if your boss is one of your mentors, that's great. But also having somebody who's separate from that can give you a little bit more of an independent view of what's going on.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate that, because I think that, yes, your boss can be a mentor, but you don't only need to have one mentor. You might have multiple mentors depending on what aspect of your career that you're looking at. You might have a technical mentor. You might have a mentor that's in a position that you want to be in that's not at the same company, and you want to know, okay, how do I get there, either within your company or within the company that I'm at? Those are hard conversations to have with maybe, your boss right off the bat. Depends on how open your boss is about those sorts of things, but definitely decoupling that is beneficial.
Yeah, and just to go off what Josh just said about having multiple mentors, I think you should figure out what your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and ideally try to find a mentor that will help you with the weaknesses, because by definition you're already good at your strengths. So for example, let's say you have very good technical skills, but you want more leadership skills and understanding the leadership and management parts of your organization, then you would have to, direct your attention to finding a mentor who would help more with that. So finding out what your weaknesses are and identifying the appropriate person to quote unquote latch onto.
And I don't think that relationship always has to be something that's official either. It can be something that's just helping you for a short period of time.
Exactly what I was going to say, Robin. I think like I've been in a long-term mentor relationship, but I think it's much broader than that. You can seek out a mentor for a very specific question or item that you want to find out more information about. and then move on to what your next goal is, and see who are the people who can help you with that. But as you go along, you're building your network. And so you're developing a network of people who are interested in you and your career because you took the time to ask them questions and to find out what their opinion was. So it really is a great way to build a network of people who really care about your career.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a great start to the questions here. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one, which is, what are the benefits of having a mentor? And also, what are the benefits of having a mentee? In keeping with the alphabetical order, Josh, I'm going to go ahead and kick this one to you first.
Perfect. Yeah. So, what are the benefits of having a mentor? Oh, I don't know if we have enough time to go through all the benefits that there are to having a mentor, but I think that to sum it all into one thing, it would be um, to learn and grow and almost bypass some of the struggle. Um, I don't like the idea of like shortcuts because there's negative connotations to that. You're cheating almost. But if there's somebody that you know or somebody that you can ask them, about a certain stage in your career, and you can get to that point a little bit faster or get to a solution faster, then that's a great way to do it. And that all depends on which part of your career you're in. Are you in your undergrad trying to figure out, okay, what about grad school? Reaching out to somebody who is in the profession, figuring out whether or not it's necessary or not. Okay, now you're in grad school. Well, now what do I do about jobs? Reaching out to somebody to see what is the job market like? What do people look for as they're trying to hire people? And then once you're hired, reaching inside your organization and outside your organization to find, okay, what are the next steps that I should be doing? Okay, maybe some of those steps are becoming licensed. All right, now that I'm licensed, what's the next steps? Like, somebody's already been down this path long before any of us have been down this path. And so asking them, what direction do I go, will save you a lot of time of just running around in circles. And so I think that's the main benefit of being a mentor. The benefit of being a mentee is you're now being that person. You're now sharing your experiences with others. And I feel like that's the only way that we can better the profession, right? If we all have to start at the bottom and work and learn how to do engineering without anybody teaching us, well, and then the next generation restarts back there, we're not gonna progress. The profession isn't gonna get any better, right? You can think about that with technology. If we had to relearn how to, I don't even know how they thought about circuits and motherboards and stuff like that. And we won't go down that because that's beyond my knowledge. I'd have to get a mentor to explain that to me. But
We've got
but if we
James
had
here.
to, all right, well, I'll ask him about it later. But if we had to go back to the very basics, as some people are talking about, like quantum computing and stuff like that blows my mind. But even just simple computing blows my mind. So if we don't stand on the shoulders of those that are before us, or we don't let others stand on our shoulders, there's no progress, and there's no way that we can leave our mark on the profession. And you can leave whatever mark you want, or if you want to leave without a trace, that is on you. But there is a lot of fulfillment, there is a lot of joy that comes from helping others and building the profession. And so with that, I'll step back from my soapbox and let others chime in on that topic.
I need some of the tutoring from James as well, because I got a 0 on my first electrical engineering test. It wasn't good. I think one of the benefits is that you'll know somebody else who's doing a similar thing to you, that they're going to provide you support. My dad was my mentor. He was not an engineer. There's no engineers in my family, but he was able to help me from a different perspective. When I had 1 year of experience, he recommended to me, because he looked at my resume and he said, man, it looks like you have a lot of experience here. I think you should remove all the dates from your resume because it looks like you have more than a year. When you put the date of when you graduated and all that type of stuff, this person isn't going to call you because you just have the year of experience. Without it, they're going to give you that call. I didn't lie. When they called me, I told them when I graduated, I told them all those things. But it was an opportunity that opened a door that said, hey, from your resume, the goal of the resume is to get a call. The goal of the call is to get the interview. The goal of the interview is to get the job. It's not the resume gets you the job. There's steps that you have to take to get there. And then I'll just take it that extra step further. My son went into engineering, and when he was in college, he started taking statics. And if any of you have taken engineering, you took statics, and at some point in statics, you like pulled your hair out and you're like, I can't do this. When he got to that point, he was able to call me, and I was able to help him there. So knowing somebody else who's doing a similar thing for you can really help make you feel like, okay, this isn't so bad. There's somebody else who's done this, and I can do this too.
Yeah, I would add that I think the mentor-mentee relationship, it's a good sounding board. So the mentee may have an idea like, I want to, develop this skill, and I'm thinking about taking this course. What do you think? And then the mentor can provide some good advice. Well, that course is good, but maybe this one is even better. And you're like, oh, okay, I didn't know there was this other option for me. So I think there's a lot of really good information that can be passed between mentor and mentee. The other thing, Josh, that you were talking about is our profession. And I really like that theme because I believe that we are definitely in a profession, but engineering is a hard profession. It doesn't act like the other professions like law and accounting and medicine. And we need to change that about our profession. And I think mentoring is a great way to do that. So there aren't the secret knowledge, or maybe there is secret knowledge, but we're passing it along to the next generation. I think that's really important.
Okay. Shall I move on, or does anyone have anything else to add to this question?
I was gonna move on to the next one because I agree with everything that everyone said. I thought that was very well spoken.
Okay, yes. All right, let's keep it rolling. Okay, so the next question we have is, how do you find a mentor? And then once you do find that mentor, how do you establish that mentor relationship? So any guesses who's going next? Robin.
I have never in my life been a C as a last name and been 3/4 of the way down the list of alphabetical. So first name works, I guess.
Yeah.
So how do you find that mentor? I think there's a lot of different places that you can look for one. Obviously, work is a good starting point, or school if you're looking for something in that one, a teacher and things like that. But even beyond that, you should be expanding your web. Ask people that you know. So you may not know engineers. I didn't know any, but I can ask people and say, hey, do you know any engineers? Do you know somebody who? And a lot of people, I mean, you go a couple of people out and you can probably find almost anybody that you need. So don't be afraid to ask people that you know. You have social connections, social media, those type of things. Say, hey, I'm looking for someone who can help me out with. Does anybody know anybody? And you can start small. You have to create that personal connection with somebody before kind of like just overwhelming them. Like if you were to email somebody, say, let's just say you ask some friends, they give you a number of a cousin, an uncle, whatever it is, and you send this email and it's like buckets long. It's going to be very difficult for that person to kind of focus and say, wait, I don't know what's going on here. Like, who are you? So you want to kind of start small and be like, hey, I'm looking for this. Could you help me out with that? Or hey, I was just wondering, what do you do? You know, I was interested in that type of thing, but you've got to find those connections. A few other places that you can find those are through local societies, like local engineering societies, even a local society, something like bowling. I don't know why that's big in Buffalo, New York, but it is, you know, but you can make connections. Yeah, I don't want to bowl, okay? But you can make those connections to people and start expanding your web from there. If you have an opportunity to go to some events or conferences, if you're a student, a lot of times they're looking for volunteers. So you can volunteer, you're able to attend that event, sometimes free, maybe it comes with free lunch, maybe it just comes with free cookies, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's just the opportunity to be able to get out there and talk with people. But I encourage you to go do those types of things. I know as engineers, most engineers are not social beings. We would rather stay in our little box, not go anywhere, but it's very difficult to meet somebody at home. So you have to go out. You have to go explore just a little bit. And I think if you go to an event where other engineers are, you're going to find it's a safe place because almost everybody there is in the same shoes as you. Socializing is not their priority. They're not great at it. They're not the hipster engineers. You know, I think we're kind of the oddities, and that's why we're on the webinar is because you know, we don't mind talking with people. We're teachers. It's a different mindset that we use. We just have that specialized skill in engineering. Professional events, big time. Go out there, do whatever you can, get into types of things that you have, and then take that relationship and just build it slowly, build it gradually up to what it is that is what you're looking for, but also what that other person is looking for. So they may just have an hour a month to provide you. Don't ask for 10 hours a month. Or they might have a larger window of opportunity to be able to help you, or maybe in a certain time of year. You know, construction's big in the summer, maybe in the winter they can spend more time speaking with you. But build that slowly, build it gradually over time, and develop it to a point where there's a level of trust. You can't have trust on day one, so you start small and build it up from there.
Thanks,
I
Robin.
would, I would also suggest, you know, speaking of starting small, especially if you're new to an organization, don't try to find a mentor right away, even though you might be tempted to do that. Take some time to really figure out who would be the best person to be your mentor. Because I've worked with, you know, teams where one person seems very bright and intelligent, but then the more you learn about them, maybe, for example, they have some reputational problems or they're not necessarily trusted in the organization. So you might want to, you know, steer clear from them in terms of being your mentor. So take a little bit of time to understand who you're working with, what traits you want to develop, and you know, just making sure you do pick the right person. Because if you pick the wrong mentor, then they're going to teach you things that probably may be somewhat detrimental to you. So you do want to make sure you pick the right person.
I would expand on that theme, and I agree with what Sina's saying. Um, you can meet with people without this big weight of I'm looking for a mentor. Just meet with people, have lunch, could be the president of a company you heard speak on a subject, and they're interested if you're interested in them. I mean, that goes a long way to show interest in somebody. And then when you sit down with them, you might have a great conversation and you're like, oh, this person I can learn a lot from. Or you might have lunch with that person and you're like, this was like pulling teeth. I need to move on. So you're learning as you're going through this. It's a relationship just like other relationships in your life, and some of them work out and some of them don't. And it's not something to feel terrible about if you choose not to continue with a mentor or mentee. It's just you didn't quite fit, wasn't meeting that your immediate need or your long-term needs.
Yeah, all great points that have already been said. Maybe some things to kind of reiterate that kind of pinged off in my mind when Robin was talking is, you know, starting small, like asking them asking people, reaching out to people, asking about what they do, showing interest in them, because human beings, people, we love to talk about ourselves. We love if people want to hear about us. And so kind of playing into that, like that's all right, because the more that you get to know somebody, the more that you can find how you relate back to them, and you can deepen that connection. I think that that connection has to be a priority with a mentorship. It can't just be a take. There has to be some give and take, some back and forth. They have to enjoy this as well. And, I've found that when people reach out to me, or when I've reached out to other people, there's usually really good success if you offer to take them to lunch, because people have to eat lunch, and that usually confines them to, okay, I can block out an hour of time. You're not taking time out of their day, you're giving them a meal, and if it goes anywhere after that, great. If it doesn't, great. And so it's kind of like a mentorship is like a relationship. There has to be no commitment, no expectation going into it. But if both parties are on the same page, then it progresses. And so I think that's where you have to start small. And Robin noted a lot of great places, or a lot of great ways that you can connect with people. Maybe you feel like you don't have those networking groups or those conferences where you're located. Well, you can reach out to people on LinkedIn. Now, granted, the cold call is not always the best way to do it, or the cold DM message is not the best way to do it. But, you might see people posting online, and you might comment on their stuff, and you might reach out to them that way. Or playing into where you went to school, alumni love to mentor those that went to their same school. I don't know what it is, but like, it's true for me too. Like, anybody that went to BYU or UC Davis, like, you have my undivided attention, no matter what time or day. Everybody else also has that, but the Cougars and the Aggies like rise up in the priority list, and I can't help it. There's some innate bias there, but what I'm getting at is reaching out to alumni, or just anybody that's in the profession. I know that one time I reached out, as I was looking for grad schools, I reached out to a company in the area of my grad school and just said, hey, like, I asked them about grad schools and masters, and like, it was a cold call there. And it actually went a lot better than I thought. But it was because they were an alumni of the school that I was asking about. I had done my research enough to do that. But, not all the time is it. Well, I had a lot of times where I fell on my face. But those are other ways that you can reach out or find mentors.
I think a lot of times somebody may not feel like they can be a mentor or a mentee for one reason or another, but I think everybody can. Even somebody coming out of school, you can actually you get this relationship, and while there might be somebody who's helping you from the professional end, you may actually be able to help them from the technology end. So I think everybody has something that they can give and something they can provide. And then on the flip side, it's also everybody has something that they can learn. I mean, we're all teachers for PPI, and I'm assuming everyone else is in the same boat. Every time we teach, there's a point in the class where we're like, oh, I didn't get that before. That makes sense now. So there's always things to learn. And so either side of it, it can almost become like Josh said, a two-way street where you're both helping each other with different avenues.
Great responses, guys. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to our last question. What tips or advice do you have about getting the most out of a mentor relationship? So we've kind of already talked about what is the mentor relationship, what are the benefits of it, how do you find one, once you find one, how do you ask them to be a mentor? Now you've got that set up. How do you really get the most out of that relationship? And I'm going to go ahead and have Seina start this one off.
Yeah, so once you've got that relationship established, what's next? I think first off, try to meet with them as regularly as you can, ideally a couple times a week if they have the time on their schedule, and really ask as many questions as you can. I remember early in my career, I was in a field that did not really interest me, and so I wasn't really asking a lot of questions, and my supervisor told me that, and I realized, oh, maybe I should go someplace where I am asking a lot of questions. So I did exactly that, which for me was going to the energy industry. And it was a 180 difference with my next mentor who said, I really like all the questions you ask. So make sure you ask a lot of questions, especially if you're new to an organization. I would kind of resist the urge to immediately start changing things. We all want to make an impact, obviously, but first you have to really learn the rules and the regulations and the systems to see why they are the way they are. And then later on, once you get comfortable with that, you can start making improvements in the processes that they have and getting people's attention that way. I think one thing to try to do as the mentee is to really learn the thinking process of the mentor and the mentor's style and attitudes and psychology in a way. And the reason I said that is, the mentor is going to be a human just like everyone else. So you want to find, the good traits of the mentor that have helped them in their career, but also maybe some of the traits of the mentor that maybe aren't so good, and see, what has hindered them in their own career and how you could learn from that and maybe not make the same mistakes. So try to learn both of the accomplishments of the mentor and their setbacks as well. And in terms of, if you're the mentor, how do you make the most out of that? I think really you just have to develop a joy in learning a new way of looking at things and getting a fresh perspective. Because if you've been doing your work for quite a while, you might get kind of stale and bored at it. And then when a young mentee comes in with a new way of doing things, it might, get your own imagination going and see why you got in the industry in the first place. But also for mentors, you have to understand at some point it's going to be time for the mentee to move on. And if that's the case, you can't really try to keep them there. If they need to move on, then they need to move on, and you have to let that happen as well. So
Thank you. Anyone else want to hop on?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think for the mentee, you need to be specific about what you want from the mentor. And I think we've covered that pretty well. But that helps guide the conversation and will help you be very specific about getting an answer. Agree to a schedule. I think that's something important that a mentor and mentee can do, is to say, okay, how do we want to approach this? Like Seina said, maybe in the beginning it's meeting much more often, but maybe it turns into lunch once a month or lunch once a quarter, and those meetings can be, well, what has come up since the last time we met? So maybe it's not a specific goal anymore, but it's more like career guidance that the mentor can provide. And some of you have been mentors, obviously, and I think it is amazing what questions you may get asked to help with major life changing conversations, and just providing, being an objective sounding board, and not being judgmental or saying, well, if I were in your situation, I would do this. More like, well, what are your options? What are you thinking of, how would you like to handle this? And then when they lay out the options, it usually becomes more clear which is the correct path to go.
So I'll chime in. I agree with what has been said. Maybe some thoughts that I have on it would be based on my experience, where I haven't had as rigid of, this mentor relationship. It's always been like an unspoken thing. And sometimes that's perfectly fine. There's no issues with it being unspoken, with it being like with it putting a label on it. Um, and I think that, as was mentioned by James, meeting regularly, that might just be going out to lunch once a month, or it might not be every second Tuesday of the month, but it might be you have a reminder in your phone or something on the first week of the month to reach out to that person and say, hey, I'd love to catch up again. Can we grab lunch? So it's not as, you can put yourself in these rigid schedules if that is your style and that's what you like to do. But if that's not what your style is, then you can be free flow with it. Um, that's why I wanted to chime in, because I agree with what has been said, but I agree that you can also do it another way, because everybody has different ways of doing um, mentoring or learning or relationships. I like how that's noted here. Um, and what I mentioned earlier is this is a relationship. Some people like having things on their calendar. Sometimes things on my calendar give me anxiety um, when they start to pile up. Um, but that's the only way that I'm going to schedule my time, because I get so busy. And so in some ways that's really good. In other ways, I like to fly by the seat of my pants and um, do things that way. So it's up to you to decide how you like to do things and to schedule that within your time frames.
I think every person on earth is unique. Every one of us have been made different. And so you really do need to be honest with yourself and with the person that you're dealing with. If there's something that you think you can't do, or you're something that you don't understand, you need to explain that and say that for yourself. When I was in college, we had to do some things, and I had to go up to my teacher. He wanted us to go out to a site, and he was like, do this, this, and that. I'm like, I have no clue what that is. In my construction experience, or my knowledge is probably my downfall. But instead of trying to hide that, I can use that to my advantage and say, hey, I don't have that experience. I need somebody else to help me with that. When I deal with contractors and they're asking me to design something, I will go and say, hey, what would you like to do? And then I'll go do some calculations for it, and I'll say, oh, well, you have to use this a little larger or this a little different. But I'm honest with that. There isn't anybody, not any engineer, nobody in the world that knows everything about everything. I could stump James with an electrical question someday. I can stump people, right? I mean, there's going to be things you just haven't gotten to. You haven't gotten to the depth of knowledge that you need. And the other thing that I would say is to just be yourself. If you try to put on some sort of front and persona, you're not going to be able to keep that up, and it's going to make you nervous and make it even more difficult to continue that relationship. So be yourself, be who you are, be honest with what you can and can't do. And then from there, that's when you'll be able to grow your knowledge base.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to end the questions there, Rob. Thanks. I am going to show one more slide here to wish everybody on the call, whether you are an engineer or not, happy Engineers Week. I think it's Monday through Sunday or something like that, but we are in the middle of Engineers Week right now. And if you have made it to the end of this webinar, we do have a special promo code here, Eng Week Webinar. That is good across our website, even on our courses. So if you, for 15% off. So if you use that in the next week, you'll be able to get 15% off anything on the website. That about wraps it up. Looks like we have 1 minute left, so we did good on timing, guys. Good job. I wanted to thank. Yeah, Happy Engineers Week. Woo. I know I should have had balloons dropping down right now. Thank you to the instructors. Thank you so much for joining this panel discussion on mentorship. We chose this topic because we don't think that it's talked about enough, and I think that engineers can get a lot out of this type of discussion. And I want to thank everybody that also came to attend. Alrighty, and like I said at the beginning, if you did ask a question, we will download those and we will get back to you after the webinar.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.